Hey guys, Aaron here. Now, you're probably used to hearing me stick my ad in here for horribledesigns.com. And in my general need to try and improve things and keep things fresh and topical, it's time for a new ad for horribledesigns.com. So here it is. Go to horribledesigns.com, get t-shirts, get mugs, get stickers, get mouse pads, get stuff, get swag with a bunch of humorous things on it, pictures, commentary, little thoughts and ideas. And for being a loyal listener of the show, you can get 15% off your total purchase price by using the code I had to say it at checkout. And that's all one word. I had to say it. Only available at horribledesigns.com. The podcast you are about to listen to contains at least one of the following: strong language, disturbing topics, abusive opinions, generally things that aren't appropriate for little kids or overly sensitive people. So, if any of that stuff's going to get your nose out of joint, this is your chance to turn it off. Welcome to I Had to Say It, the podcast where I talk about things that I feel need talking about, and sometimes they're not getting the attention they deserve. And your feelings, they're not under consideration. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of I Had to Say It. We're going to start out as we do now by saying Josh, Jake, B-Word, Iceman, Jason, Miss Aaron, Mike, Tabby, and Javier, thank you guys so much for your support. It means a lot to me. If you would like to hear your name read along with these ultra-fine individuals who are probably some of the most fantastic people you will find these days, all you have to do is go to the Patreon and subscribe. Or if you're not comfortable with Patreon, because there has been a little controversy, I think they've addressed it all, but you can also go to Buy Me a Coffee and sign up there. And then you will also be a named friend of the show. So we're going to cover a couple of things this week, and the first one is actually a listener request. It's from the Moose Lounge podcast, who I mentioned a couple weeks ago in my little Go Listen to Aaron's Friends That He Made Online episode, because as you may have noticed if you pay attention to most of my talking, where a lot of my social interaction on social media is done through Twitter, and they tagged myself and the Whiskey Hell guys in a post about something, and they said they'd love to hear our feedback on this from both shows. And so you're going to get my 2 pennies on that, because this is what happens when you actually reach out and interact with Aaron. Aaron will do things like, hey, check out, here's this thought that was presented to us, here's who it's from, and here you should go check them out. So if you want something plugged, that might be a good way to do it, unless what you asked me to talk about is insanely fucking stupid or something like that, in which case I may openly mock you on the show for all to hear. But in this case, that's not the case. It's not that the situation itself isn't kind of stupid, because it kind of is, and I think that's why we were asked for our take on this. But the guys at Moose Lounge are awesome, and I plugged them before because I like them, and that hasn't fucking changed, because they said, hey, Aaron, we want to get your feedback on this. That actually kind of endeared them to me a little bit more. As a side note plug, if you are going to be in the Louisville area on June 16th, 17th, or 18th, June 17th, the boys from Moose Lounge will be doing at the Louisville PopCon. They will be doing a live podcast, and on Sunday the 18th, Gray's Tap Room and the Inner Idiot will be at 1 and 2 doing live episodes of their podcast. So you should really, if you're in the area and you got nothing else planned, go check it out. I'm sure it's going to be awesome. They're amazing people, great shows. It'll be entertaining as hell. And there's going to be a whole bunch of other, pop culture shit there that you could check out too. So yeah, 16th, 17th, 18th, Louisville, Kentucky. Google it. I don't know the address. Anyway, go check it out. So that brings us back to this whole conversation. I got sent a link by an article from the guys from Moose Lounge that was talking about Georgia's GOP chair, a recently elected GOP chair at that. I believe her name is Candace Taylor. Okay. So she's a flat earther, according to this article. Now, the way this came about is she has a podcast, Jesus, Guns, and Babies. Now, that's pretty solid far-right stuff. She ran for governor, I guess, in Georgia, and now she's a district chair for the GOP. So there is the Bible and Jesus, guns, and babies. Okay, well, I'm okay with babies, I guess. I'm totally pro-gun. If you want to be into Jesus, hey, more power to you. I don't generally, talk religion as a rule. I mean, politics come up on a pretty regular basis. I will talk religion if we're busting on, priests diddling kids or whatever, but it's just generally not the area of things that are on my mind. It's sort of a moot point to me. I don't want other people's religious choices running my life, but that kind of ties back into my whole everybody should be able to live their best lives as long as they're not infringing upon the best lives of other people or hurting anybody. But anyway, back to the point. So during this episode, during an interview episode on her podcast, Jesus, Guns, and Babies, which I'm saying this way more, I don't want to give her credit. I'm not telling anybody to go listen to this, broad. I'm just saying, particularly because, so there's this guy, David Weiss. David Weiss is, as far as I can tell, he's very big in the Flat Earth movement. He's been on a lot of shows with people I know. This guy reached out to me a couple years ago and was like, hey, I think we'd love to come on your show and blah, 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 if you're willing to take the chance to challenge acceptable thought. And I mean, trying to coach it like, you're a real, standout individual if you want to take the risk to have an uncomfortable conversation about why I think the earth is flat. And honestly, I don't think the earth is flat. I'm sorry. I'm getting to be more and more of a conspiracy nut on a regular basis, but this one's just a little bit fucking much, There's too much other evidence that, no, it's not. Do I believe there could be a hole up in Antarctica that leads into the center of the earth and hollow earth is a possibility? Yeah, I suppose it's possible. That's a lot more realistic to me than the idea that the earth is a fucking plate and there's a firmament above it to keep space out, when literally every other celestial body we've observed is a sphere, is an orb, is a globe. And even mathematically, they've proven this. There have been numerous scientific studies that you could do back in like the Bronze Era to verify that there is actually a curvature to the Earth. And it's just, so Flat Earth to me is fucking ridiculous. And particular David Weiss, I've listened to the guy talk, and he does a good pitch, and it's a well-rehearsed pitch. And I can understand how some people might buy into it, but that again is people that want to deny empirical evidence. And the thing that concerns me about this lady, who is, again, like I said, she's now a district chair for the Georgia GOP, is she says the more she learns about Flat Earth, any other way doesn't make any sense, because they say that it's a conspiracy to try and say there's a globe. To what end? What would the fucking point of that particular conspiracy be? Why would the entire planet, what advantage does convincing everyone that there's a globe? And she's sitting there like, oh, well, if you knew what I know about globes, you would be flat earthers too. Like what? I mean, literally everything that this David guy is willing to talk about, he will talk about ad nauseum anywhere he can get a fucking platform. It's utterly ridiculous. And the quotes in this article of this woman defending her belief in flat earth, she references biblical evidence, and so does Dave Weiss. That's what they're pointing to. They're pointing to the Bible. I've said repeatedly, the Bible's not a bad book. It's one of the best-selling books of all times. However, it's also not a eyewitness account, textual, factual thing. It's a lot of guidelines. And if you're looking at it as anything other than a whole bunch of kind of rules of thumb for living and not being a huge piece of shit, if you think it's a literal, like written by the mouth of God into somebody that wrote it down, I'm sorry, that's great for you, I guess. But again, don't expect me to live my life according to that. Particularly because in this particular case, you can't play a game of telephone for 35 people and get the message right. You really think a book that wasn't even written down and was an oral history for the first 1,000 years it existed was accurate? I mean, you fucking miss me with that. But I digress. I'm getting off onto an entirely different rant. But this lady, Candace Taylor, she's in their discussion, she's complaining about the volumes of globes she sees every day like it's a conspiracy. There's globes everywhere. She turns on the TV, there's globes in the background. Everywhere there's globes. You see them all the time. It's so there. My children will be like, Mama, globe, 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 globe. what the fuck is wrong with your kids? I mean, she says it's people trying to brainwash us into believing that the earth is round. And if it's, why is it being pushed so hard everywhere? Everywhere I go, there's globes everywhere. Well, maybe it's being pushed because it's the way it is. It's not being pushed. It's a statement of fact, you fucking goofball. And furthermore, if your kids are like, Mama, globe, 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 you either need to reassess how you're interacting with your kids, or maybe you want to get them tested, because that's a really fucked up thing to be focused on, unless they're reacting because you're pushing your wackadoo beliefs into them. And yes, I'm coming flat out and saying it. If you're a flat earther, you're listening to the wrong program, because I think you lack analytical thinking capabilities. And I think if you're willing to embrace all this like shoddy pseudoscience that's going to try and tell you that because the Bible said so and because it's some huge conspiracy that literally serves no purpose, no grander scheme, literally no practical point. I mean, completely ignoring the fact that you can fly round trip around the planet. It's been circumnavigated. It's been proven. Satellites are a fucking thing. We can take pictures. We have seen pictures from space. The Hubble Space Telescope is up there. We have pictures. And these people will say, oh, well, all that's been, faked and altered and doctored. For the love of fuck, why? It is utterly fucking stupid. And if that's the hill you want to die on, that's the flag you're going to fly under, that's the battle you want to pick. I mean, again, to what purpose? You want to convince me that there's some huge conspiracy to convince us that the world is round when it's actually a fucking platter, which, again, defies like physics and logic. You better give me a real convincing reason as to why they're trying to sell this grand conspiracy, why so much money and effort and time has been conditioning people to believe something that is just factually inaccurate, other than just because they don't want us to know. Why the fuck not? It literally serves no purpose to be standing on that hill waving a fucking flag when you can't explain any logical reason for why it would need to be hidden from people. And almost invariably, when people say this is a fucking crackpot theory, the people defending it almost constantly fall back to, well, it's because God, they're God's enemies, and their only justification for any of this shit is religious dogma, which, again, if you want to be religious, if you want to be spiritual, you want to believe in a higher power, more power to you. I don't care. I don't judge you for that. I don't think that in and of itself is a problem. I think having a belief structure and having faith in something makes people better people. That being said, when, again, you want the rest of the world to accept everything that comes out of your mouth because you're pointing to your particular scripture, that doesn't work for me. I have a problem with that. Believe whatever you want. If it makes you happy, believe it. If you're right, great. If you're wrong, whatever. I don't see any repercussions in believing something and having it turn out to be wrong on the scale of, okay, so if I don't believe in this, I'm going to go to hell, but I don't believe in hell. So your whole motivation of telling me I have to believe in your faith or I'm going to go to hell doesn't really fucking work for me. And that is going to be as much as I'm getting into the religious conversation in this episode, because that I could do a 3-hour episode strictly on picking apart my problems with many of the established global religions on this planet. Because, like I said, I mean, personally, from a personal standpoint, I don't talk about this too often. I do believe in a higher power. I do believe that we are not alone in the universe. I do believe that if we were, it'd be a pretty lonely place. However, do I believe that there's some celestial big brother over there that's sitting there looking at me and judging me for everything I do and every action I take? No, because that's attributing way more value to your own person than I think would actually be warranted. There's 8 billion people on the fucking planet at this point. But again, I'm not going off on that tear. I'm talking about this broad in Georgia who is, from what I can tell, she's not real grounded in reality in any way, shape, or form. But somehow she still got a chair position on the Georgia GOP. When she was running for governor, she wouldn't concede the race, even though she only got 3.4% of the vote. Now, there was a lot of people screaming election fraud during that election, and it was where the Cheeto didn't get his election. And honestly, I do believe that in a significant way, there was a lot of improprieties with the election in the 2020 election. Am I an election denier? It depends on how you look at it. I really think there's way too much suspicious shit going on. It was handled extremely poorly, regardless of how you want to take it. I honestly, I don't give a fuck, because it was kind of like South Park said, giant douche or turd sandwich. It hasn't gotten any better. We need to stop sticking geriatric fucks in the White House, for starters. We need to put a age cap on literally any position in government service, and we need to cut out their lifetime benefits so these worthless parasitic fucks can't become career politicians. But that's neither here nor there. Point being, so yeah, this broad's a little nuts. She believes that the other Republican she ran against in the primary, the governor, Brian Kemp, she believes her race against him was rigged because she only got 3.7% of the vote. Not that she was the lesser of the GOP candidates, but it was a conspiracy to keep her from getting elected. And like I said, this broad is a flat earther. She thinks the globist conspiracy is a brainwashing attempt. She's utterly batshit crazy. I was going to start listening to a couple episodes of her podcast when I realized I don't want to give her any more traction. I don't want her to think, because she's not going to go, oh, well, somebody was analyzing my show to find out what a fucking wackadoo I am. She's just going to go, oh, look, my listener numbers went up a little bit, and I'm not okay with that. I mean, if you want to do it, by all means, feel free to go find out what a wackadoo she is and report back to us. But I'm no, hard pass. This crazy broad. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. That's one of the problems with everyone having a voice on the internet, is everyone has a fucking voice on the internet. And unfortunately, the current society we live in has done away with a lot of the effective things for keeping people like this from getting the kind of foothold they are. And one of the things I was thinking about in the context of this story is, why is flat earth conspiracy growing so much in the last few years? Like, it's popping up left and right. And I think part of that is because, like I said, any crazy motherfucker out there with a microphone and a computer and an internet connection can make a podcast. These people find each other and they link up and they hook their crazy together, and it kind of snowballs. And for better or worse, we've removed a lot of the societal check valves that would keep this dumb shit in line under the guise of inclusion and exception and acceptance and da-da-da-da-da. I mean, like, I'm never going to be like pro-bully. Like but on the other hand, if you're never challenged and you're never called out, you never learn to stand up for yourself because you don't think you should have to. So there is a certain deficiency that is existing in our current culture because we've taken away all the, like, oh, you can't say that, you might hurt somebody's feelings. Sometimes people need their fucking feelings hurt. I'm sorry. It builds character. My parents used to say that all the time when I was little and I was fucking miserable. Yeah, well, you're unhappy, but guess what? This is going to build character. And they're right, because I guarantee the vast majority of us Gen Xers and early millennials have way more character than any of these fuckstains that are spawned today. I mean, realistically, it's kind of almost like there's a nostalgia for this too, because we see like remakes of things from the 80s, and we see things like Cobra Kai coming out and doing huge numbers on Netflix, partly because of nostalgia. Yeah, I mean, it's not a badly written story or anything like that, and they only tried to shoehorn so much bullshit into it. But overall, there's a lot of nostalgia, there's a lot of throwback, and there's a lot of like, yeah, this dude was kind of the bad guy, and he kind of got his shit together, but he's still kind of this, massive douchebag. And when you completely remove the antagonistic vectors, when you completely remove any sort of challenge to anything, this is what happens. There's nothing to cull the weak ideas. There's nothing to stop the shit from snowballing. And there's nothing to cull weak concepts and weak thought processes from the fucking herd. And you get this shit. You get a political chair of a district in Georgia who is a firm believer that the earth is flat and there's some huge conspiracy that we all are being told it's a globe for some sort of lie because the Bible got it right and man is fallible and we should be living according to a 2,000-year-old game of telephone. And these people have enough political clout where they're getting platforms. And nobody's coming along going, you're a fucking idiot. Now, granted, the flat earthers are a little bit more of a soft target than some of the things. There's not really a big taboo against speaking out against these people these days. beyond the standard taboo that exists for most of society, where it's like, oh, you can't say that, oh, you can't think that, oh, you can't do that. You can't tell somebody they're being fucking stupid because their feelings might be hurt and you might be invalidating their personhood. Some of this shit needs to be invalidated. It's really not that complicated of a concept. Dumb shit that doesn't work needs to be called out as dumb shit that doesn't work. Otherwise, it poisons the general well of society, and we get the shit show that we have in this country at this point. So honestly, if you started listening to this show thinking you're only going to hear me bagging on liberals because that's what a lot of the episodes are, no, it's just because the liberals have a tendency to be more boisterous in their stupid shit. I am non-political in the aspect of I don't subscribe to either party. I am non-partisan. I think both sides are full of shit, and there are extremists and morons on both sides. There are good people on both sides, too. There's a lot of good ideas that used to be considered liberal ideas. Now, they're not nearly liberal enough to still be liberal, but I am of that mindset. I am of that generation where I was more than content to let everybody out there live their best lives. I don't give a shit who you're attracted to as long as they're adults. I don't give a shit what color you are. I don't give a shit what God you pray to. I didn't even give a shit that vegans existed unless they're the insufferable prick ones. The insufferable ones I don't give a fuck about. I got like a third of my family has gone vegan, and I still love them. I still consider them, to be decent people. I don't agree with their lifestyle choices, and that's just me. And part of that's because of what I do for a living, and the other part of that is because I am a much more practical individual than the way I see some people who believe in hardcore veganism, because they don't understand what it takes to support their lifestyle. They don't understand the farming processes, the growing processes, the food processing processes. I prefer things that are much closer to a natural state. And unless you're a raw vegetable vegan, you are not eating unprocessed foods. Unprocessed foods or minimally processed foods are way better for you than some of this factory-produced garbage that comes out, and it meets and ticks all the boxes for vegan, but that doesn't mean it's fucking good for you. Arsenic is fucking vegan. So it's not just about meeting a label or a brand. It's about the thought process behind it. And fortunately for the family members I have who did just choose to go that route, they do it in a mindful and conscientious way that is beneficial from a health standpoint, from what I can tell, for them. Not my cup of tea, not my particular flavor of things. I don't think I'll be jumping on board that boat anytime soon, regardless of the things they've had happen for them. And I've had several of my family members that were diabetic and all this other garbage, and they've got their diabetes under control or in remission, or however the hell you want to look at it, by switching to a vegan lifestyle, and good for them. Aaron won't be doing that shit. Aaron's going to try and lose a bunch of weight and get his shit back to where it needs to be so he can be a healthy, normal, functioning individual without being a herbivore, because I do not believe we are biologically comprised of the necessity to function that way. That came out kind of fucking sideways. We're not meant to survive only on vegetables. If you thought we were, you're not looking at, we don't have that thick of enamel on our teeth. We have omnivore teeth. We have teeth made for grinding. We have teeth made for rending and tearing. Our teeth are not coated in thick, heavy-duty enamel that you need to process raw plant materials like cows or sheep or anything like that. There are biological markers that we do not have. There are enzymes that we do not possess in our stomachs. There's a reason we only have one stomach and not four stomachs like a cow, because a cow needs multiple stages to break down the food so they can process their vegan food into meat for the rest of us. Wow, I'm really going off on a tear there. So I'm going to take a little break here to compose myself. We're going to stick in an ad for another show, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to talk some more about something else. All right, for the second half of this episode, I'm going to talk about something I originally was just going to kind of not talk about, but I was having a conversation with a couple of friends of mine who it's more significant to, and it got me thinking, and I'm going to just briefly touch on this. And the fact of the matter is, it's June. That's not something that's up for debate or question or anything like that. And here in the States, it is Pride Month. Now, in and of itself, I would not normally take an issue with it. I talked about this a couple of years ago where, I'm not changing my podcast logo to something with a rainbow on it because I'm not part of that group. I don't need to identify as part of that group, and it would be disingenuous to do it to me. At least it feels that way. It feels like it would be pandering, and I don't fucking pander. I state what I state. I believe what I believe. Anybody that wants to question where I stance on, the LGB, even the T community, you can understand. Go back, listen to another episode. Listen to any 10 episodes. Talk to me in person. As long as you're a consenting adult, I don't give a shit about anything about that stuff. It's irrelevant to me. It is not a deciding factor in what I'm going to think of your worth. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if you're straight. I don't care if you're bi. Which, by the way, the B in LGBTQ implies bi, implies two, which means there's all this other nonsense that's been tacked onto it in the last few years is kind of, you got to pick one or the other. You can't have it both ways. But I digress. The simple fact of the matter is I do have a lot of friends who qualify as gay or lesbian or bisexual. I have transsexual friends, and I'm not using this as that, waving though, I can say this because I have these friends. What I'm saying is that shit doesn't matter to me in my assessment of their worth to my life. They bring some sort of value to my day-to-day existence, and that is really all that matters to me about these people is I see some worth and some value in them. I appreciate them for who they are as people. I find that the quality and content of their character is worthy of my time and my interest. And that's as far as it goes. And I wasn't going to touch on this subject because, like I said, I'm not a part of that community. But a conversation I was having with a couple of friends of mine recently, leading up to this, and these are people who, again, are of my age. The Gen X actually had to deal with a lot of discrimination, and coming out was a very traumatic and problematic situation for them. And we were talking about how they really don't see that Pride Month as something that should be celebrated the way it is. It was one thing when it was part of a struggle for acknowledgement and equal treatment, but their problem with the situation was that it has been co-opted, again, by fringe groups, by people that want to be treated as being special for nothing. Not that they want equal treatment, not that they want just to be acknowledged and respected, but they want to be celebrated and lauded for having done literally fucking nothing. Particularly in today's American climate and atmosphere, it's almost more taboo to be considered heteronormative, cis, straight, whatever the fuck you want to call it, than it is to be any one of the what are they saying, 97 fucking possible genders now, and people that are identifying as all sorts of dumb shit and it's ridiculous. I mean, like I said, in terms of your personal worth, I tend to judge people based on what they bring to the table. What is the quality of their company? What characteristics do they have that I respect enough to spend my time, the one tangible physical asset you have a set finite amount of, and you can never get more and you can never change, is your time. I mean, you can work to try and extend your lifespan through being healthy and taking good care of yourself, but at the end of the day, we all only get so many fucking minutes, and you can't get any of them back, and you can't get any more of them after you reach a certain fucking point. One of these days, the sun goes down on all of us. So if I'm spending my time with you, if I'm interacting with you, if I'm being around you, it's because I feel like you bring something to the table that is worthy of my fucking time. Now, a lot of these younger individuals who are co-opting the LGBTQ pride, all that stuff, like I said, the IA plus bullshit, that's where I think the problem comes in. And they have undone, these are from talking with my friends who happen to be a very wonderful pair of lesbian couple that I have. They've been friends of mine for years. I have no reason to, it's irrelevant to the conversation other than the fact that this is their perspective on things, and they feel like everything that they had to put up with when we were coming up, when we were growing up, has been basically turned into a mockery. It has been co-opted by a bunch of fucking people that, like I said, they don't want to be treated equal. They want to be treated like special. They want to be treated better. They want to be celebrated for the simple fact of existing. And it's realistically, it is a problem because celebrating and lauding mediocrity and simple existence, these people want credit and acknowledgement and to be cheered and told how fantastic they are and how brave and stunning they are simply because they exist. That's not even an accomplishment on their part. They didn't will themselves into being. They didn't just all of a sudden exist. They exist because their parents fucked, and that's it. That's the long and the short of it. There's no magical thing about it. It happens every day in nature. People are born. People die. It's the natural cycle of things. Simply existing is not enough to warrant you being treated like you're something fucking amazing. You have the potential to be amazing. You can earn the right to be treated like you're amazing, but you're not special just for fucking existing. You're definitely not as special for saying, oh, well, I don't feel like I was this, that, or the other, and now you all have to worship me and tell me I'm great for it. And it's utterly fucking ridiculous. And it kind of devalues what the forerunners had to go through, what the forward people of this movement, to try and just get the basic human dignities, to try and be treated like fucking normal human beings, which is all they are. And like I said, and this is just based on talking to a couple of my friends, they kind of resent the younger generation of people because they're making it trendy. They're making it where it's not being taken seriously. And like I said, this is my friend's own words, is when it stopped being about equality and started being about specialized preferential treatment and representation, saying, not only do you have to acknowledge that I have a right to exist, but you have to celebrate my existence, it kind of undid all the progress they made. And if you look at our current society, there's a lot of backlash coming, which is directly due to that. When it went from accept me and treat me like a normal human being to treat me like I'm special and celebrate my differences, you lost a lot of the moderate, middle-of-the-road people. Now, me personally, I still don't give a fuck about any of that stuff. If you're an adult and you want to make changes to your life and you want to identify as a fucking houseplant, I really don't care. I'm not going to come over and water you every day so you can live your best houseplant life. But if you're still a decent human being, I'll still be your friend. And if you're a fucking idiot and you don't have anything intelligent or useful to contribute to the conversation, I really don't have any use for you. But that would be the same thing as if you were a heteronormative, straight individual with a wife, a kid, and a family. If I still thought you were a fucking idiot, I'm still not going to waste my time on you. And that's realistically, that used to be what it was about. And that used to be the whole point of the movement was: treat us like normal, everyday human beings, because that's what we are. Don't treat us like outcasts. Don't treat us like freaks. Treat us like people. And a lot of us got behind that. My entire generation that now mourns the current state of the world, where division has actually made a comeback in fucking spades, because this desire to push like acknowledgement and preferential treatment for every fucking little subcategory and every little different way of looking at life, and everyone has to be lauded and told they're special and told they're fantastic, regardless of the fucking general boringness and mediocrity of their actual existence. That's the problem. And that is realistically all I'm going to say about Pride Month, unless some other like breaking news worthy of talking about comes up, because I really don't have a real stance on this beyond the fact that I just want everybody to be able to live their best lives in peace and respect. You are going to lose that by acting like a bunch of entitled, spoiled twats because you want to be told you're special because you don't feel like you fit into X, Y, or Z category. And you want me to deny science and biology in the interest of humoring you in your bullshit. It's kind of like Dave Chappelle said, I don't question your right to do whatever you want as long as you're living your best life. What I question is the extent to which I am obligated to participate in your personal shit. And so that's what I'm going to leave you guys with. Be good to each other, take care of each other, look out for each other, love people for who they are, accept people for who they are, as long as they're not pieces of shit. And for now, that's what I had to say. Thanks for listening to another episode, guys. If you liked what you heard, leave a comment, leave a review, leave a rating. Go to ihadtosayitpodcast.com, sign up for the mailing list, interact with the show. Click the links, sign up for the Patreon, join the Discord. Come and interact, be a part of the show. Buy the merch, support your favorite creator. Or support me. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Till next time.
The Pub Time Podcast is for blue-collar, hard-working, beer-drinking men and women who need a break from the daily grind.
That's right. We talk about beer, sports, hot topic current events, and true crime while mixing in our own brand of dark humor.
So sit your ass down and crack a cold one with the boys from Illinois.
Buckle up, bitches. It's pub time.